Hello everyone and welcome to the LSI F1 World Championship. We're today for round 11 out of 12, the Hungarian Grand Prix. Let's get going. Qualifying is currently underway. We've got 8 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock. Sorry for the delay in the session. Now, let's get down to business. Let's get the storyline of the season so far. We started the season with Taisi leading the Drivers' Championship. I believe Zingy led it for a moment. Then it went to Heischler. Now Nifo leads the Drivers' Championship. 4 leaders throughout the season. We also saw McLaren, Williams and Mercedes all compete for the constructors at some point. Mercedes have already taken that and secured that title, the team's championship I should say. But it's all about the drivers. Now, if Nifo is able to outscore Heischler, their rival, by 1 point today, they are the champion. If Heischler does score ahead, then they will be able to take it to Silverstone the next round, of course, and the final round of the championship. If neither driver score points, then Nifojan does become champion, as they have the most wins throughout the season. That is, the Mercedes driver not completing the rest of their lap. We've got Heischler in the pit lane at the moment. That is how it's going to go, it looks like, for them for now. It's going to be Samaxon across the line to improve marginally, but they defend their current pole position by a very small margin. They currently have it over the Dutchman, the Scotsman in P3. They cross the line and they will, I believe, continue. Yes, a 27.157, so they are going to continue setting another fast lap. Will they be able to try and compete for that pole position? They seem confident before going into this Grand Prix. They want to win once again as they come back to racing. We saw them in Belgium for the first time in a while. They duck into the slipstream of the Sauber. Up in front of them, they go through turn 5, not looking to ride that inside curb, but opening the steering on exit over the curb. Then we come into the chicane as they absolutely send it, missing the second section of the chicane, but on the second section of the chicane, I've completely bottled that. They were absolutely fine. They've gone over track limits right there as they come through the S section. They've managed to get away with it lap time wise, and they'll get away with it track limit wise, of course, as you can do in LSI in qualifying at least. Can't do it in the race. So far, so good, as Zingy continues to improve marginally, but it's not going to be by a massive amount unless they can find something magical in this final sector. DRS available, and that is going to be pretty magical in the final sector. They must have been really down in that final sector in their previous lap, and they take the provisional pole position with 5 minutes on the clock, a 13.651. Track evolution will be killer around this circuit, as we see Nifo, who will once again go again on this current set of tyres. Track evolution, as I wanted to say, is very, very big around a circuit like this. The tyres have a lot of grip. You're on 50-50 wings, and that is what makes the difference of track evolution. If you are going to be putting on fresh tyres, you're going to get a massive advantage, but also the grippier the circuit, the better, and the more those wings will be able to take advantage of that grip. So we will see how it goes later on into the session, but do expect everyone to start improving on their final runs as long as they can keep it in a straight line, of course. We've got Nifo absolutely sending a lovely camera angle there as they went through the chicane on entry. On exit, they managed to keep it nice and tidy, going through the second sector and finishing it as they slide through turn, that will be 11, a tenth and a half up, just under. Can they find a little bit more here in the final few corners? This would be able to possibly look at getting them in that pole position. They're 10th away from Zingy right now. Are they going to get that top spot once again? They do not. They miss out. They make a mistake in the final sector, and that will not be provisional pole right there for Nifo. They are on 3-lap-old soft tyres compared to Zingy's 2-lap-old soft tyres, and they've got 4 minutes on the clock. It's a short lap, so you can afford to go in and come back out and be good to go. But I do know that we can definitely get some more improvement improve lap times throughout this session as we continue. There is a lot of pace to be gained here. Charlie will start their next lap, looking to try and get a good result after a tough time in Belgium, qualifying near the front, not having the best of starts. And of course, the safety car didn't exactly make their strategy ideal. Will they learn their lesson? Will they either change their strategy or just hope that there's not going to be an early safety car around a circuit like this where overtaking is not so easy? As I said, however, with high downforce and grippy tyres, pit stops, more strategy, kind of flexibility can be a thing. So maybe if you do need to make a pit stop, it could definitely come into play. Pursoon to P2 with a 0.655, marginally behind Zingy. That is absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, Charlie did invalidate their current lap. They will continue, and I assume they're going to try and either go again on this tyre, or they will call it to go into the pit lane and come out one final time. They don't have enough energy to go again, so they will be going into the pit lane, and they'll go out for one final run very, very shortly. We've got JJ already on their way out for their final run. And we go to one of the reserve drivers, Jericho Willis, currently on track as well as PJ reserving today. We have Zingy reserving today. We have Samaxon reserving and also Pursoon. Those are the reserve drivers. They will score current tier points, so don't count them out. It is not like F1.5. Everybody scores the same points here in F1. 14.890 there for Jericho Willis. They've got a little bit more time to get to Eager Pro, but they do jump nicely ahead of PJ and JJ, who will be looking to try and improve, as PJ's still in the pit lane at the moment, who will be leaving very shortly, I would assume, unless they're going to call that the end of the day for their session. But JJ will be starting their final laps as lots of cars are now out on track. Pursoon has prepared one final lap here on the same tyre. They're looking to go again. Will they be able to get it a bit better this time? The benefit of staying out again is that your tyre temperatures are going to be up to scratch at the beginning of the lap. It does mean that you could risk overheating towards the end of the lap, and you will lose out eventually, or overall I should say, of course, with grip. But maybe that tyre temperature is everything that really counts, as they aren't too far away from their original lap time as they go through sector 1. They're going to carry on through the chicane. Let's see how they do it. They do miss the entry a little bit. They've backed off, and that is going to be the lap done there for Pursoon. They will be able to prepare one more lap, but it's not going to be easy on those tyres. We'll see what they can do as the Aston of Eager Pro does move out the way. Zingy is currently on their final lap to try and defend this pole position, sliding on entry into 5. They exit 5 and into 6 and 7. Let's see how it goes through. Oh, it's a little bit messy on the entry, but on the exit they seem to get it quite nicely down as they come through the rest of the Sector 2 section, and will go on the exit of 11 into Sector 3. Are they going to be improving? Are they close? They're improving by a tenth, over a tenth. This is going to be a nice defence as they just about manage to keep it valid on the inside line. On the exit, they are able to extend, and they're abusing all of that for sure. A little bit squirmy, almost over track limits on the exit of the penultimate corner, but through the final corner, DRS will be available. It will be valid, and it's going to be a 13.488. It's 1.5 tenths improvement. Pursoon will not be able to compete. They go into the pit lane with not enough fuel to go once again. We've got Nifo continuing. We have got what's one of the McLarens. It's Heichler to P3. That will be their starting grid. A brilliant effort towards the end of the session, but not quite able to get close enough to the Scotsman here. Samaxon will finish the session. What's it going to be for the Polish driver? P5 for now. It's going to be P2 as they make it into the 0.5s, but not quite there to get the 0.4s. Jericho Willis will finish their session, and that's going to stay P10 for them. We'll get the Racing Ball of Nabil into the pit lane, and it is going to be down to Nifo and Charlie to be able to compete for this pole position. What will Nifo be able to do? They're improving. This could possibly get them there. Can they find a little bit more to make the difference in the final sector? DRS available for the final moment. attempt, and it's going to be P2. Oh, another 0.5, but not quite able to get to the Scotsman again. What's it going to be for Charlie, currently sitting P6? Will they be able to improve? It currently looks like it's going to be tough on their time, but across the line, and it's going to be a P6. They stay where they are as they're not quite able to improve. Tom Robb goes into the pit lane. Heischler, of course, has completed their lap. That is Zingy on pole position for the Hungarian Grand Prix, and your championship leader is in P2. So Maxon with another brilliant qualifying performance, and Pursoon up there in P4. But on the third row of the grid is Heischler. Heischler needs to finish ahead of Nifo. All Nifo needs to do is either make sure, well, I shouldn't say this, make sure that they don't score points if Heischler, or if Heischler doesn't score, no, sorry, if they don't score points, Heischler doesn't score points also, or they've just got to try and finish ahead of Heischler. That is their only goal. That is a brilliant qualifying margin for the top few cars right there. This is the race director, and I'm going to take a short break as I try to stop waffling the commentary before we get to a very important race here in Budapest. We'll see you in a bit. History awaits. Ready, hold, go! Who's going to get it into turn one? The outside line for Zingy, the inside for Nifo. Who will get the traction? It should be the controller. And they do. Get a perfect start right there. It's Nifo on the inside line of Samaxon, who's trying to stick their nose in, but it's not going to happen. And they will end up in that position. A phenomenal camera angle. Doesn't make it too easy to see. We're going to get the Ferrari side by side with Charlie. Charlie starting on the hard tyre again, but it's not going to be enough. They're going to be dropped by the Ferrari there in the end. A brilliant job there from Tom Robb to make a move on the start. And we've got the McLaren, the JJ, fighting with Joko Willis and PJ right there. We've got Pursoon staying in P4. The top four, the top five stay as they are. Charlie, the only car losing positions right now, as we're going to get a quick view of the tyres already. There's a hard tyre as well for PJ at the moment. That is going to come into play later on in the Grand Prix. Now, what we're looking at is these medium tyres are going to start to drop off at laps 6 and 7. We have to make sure that we watch out for that. Charlie isn't going to have to wait long until they'll be the faster car on track to try and make some progress through the grid. But of course, all of these guys on the mediums right now will have the opportunity to be able to break away later on when they get onto that medium tyre. Zingy leads the way for now, but they've got Nifo right behind them with pressure from the Sauber. But they're going to slot in behind as Samaxon has to just abide by what's going on ahead, and they continue with Pursoon also pressuring them. Heischler sits in P5. They need to try and use an opportunity here. As everybody is so close together, DRS will be available now, so it doesn't make it any easier. With that DRS, you're now all of a sudden cancelled out. But if they can find a good exit out of that final corner, they might be able to get a position. That is Bassoon going all over the place on the exit of 4. That is showing a sign of weakness, and that is showing an opportunity for Heischler. He has to try and make some decisive moves here. They've got Tom Robb in P6, but Charlie currently a little bit of a gap between him and the car ahead. Just needs that little bit more advantage and they will be good to go. Only a few laps to wait and they'll be right there. And we're coming towards the end of lap 2 already. Charlie sits right behind. They're going to get the DRS. It's going to make it very difficult for Igor to be able to overtake, if not impossible. They've got pressure behind from the Bill, who is hungry to make a move. But DRS, here we go, available for Nifo. They're going to possibly look at making that move into the first corner. They're not going to be able to. No one's going to be able to, and they all stay where they are. Charlie did get that DRS. Will we see any moves further behind? We will not. Nothing will happen this lap around. Despite DRS being enabled for the first time, everything will stay as it is. Jericho Willis and JJ are very close, and they are going to be fighting side by side through turn 2, but JJ will get through. Jericho Willis is not willing to fight that one too hard, and JJ's now going to try and catch up that 4/10 to Nabil if they possibly can. The benefit is that because of this very slow speed circuit, they are able to catch up in the corners, so maybe JJ will be able to get this job done and bring them back into the fight here. Zingy leads the way. Nifo sits in that second place, and it is about an endurance game at this stage of the Grand Prix. We know that tyres are going to be very tough. The slow speed means that you have to really spend a lot of time trying to gain traction, and that puts stress on the tyres. It puts temperature into the tyres. It means that they get very, very slippery. So when they do start to wear, they start to really well, the effect really starts to kick in, and that is going to be brutal for everyone. Lap 4 out of 35, and Nifo is going to go for that P1 position in the end, and Charlie is already going for the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. I expected it to be early on, but not this early on. Lap 4 already, that's pretty impressive. That being said, of course, the cars up the front are already trying to settle in a rhythm. They're not actually looking to try and fight each other. They know that the tyre situation is going to be tough, so they're trying to work together on this harder stint, as we've got Charlie, who is fighting the car a little bit through turn 4, sliding on the exit, as it is a very high-speed corner. You want to try and avoid the brakes as much as possible, but you do have to dab it with race fuel, especially at the start. As these guys continue, Charlie's going to be looking to try and make this move on Tom. Tom is up the edge of getting DRS of the cars ahead, so I think this is going to be a pretty straightforward decision for Charlie. They're going to want to make that move right now or not at all. So yeah, it will be Charlie looking to pressurize, whether Tom gets DRS or not, but I don't think Tom does have DRS this time around. Zingy 3/10 behind Nifo. I don't know if they'll be going for that move into the first corner. They will be. That's going to be Charlie going through, and they will stay where they are. Up ahead, it's Samaxon trying to have a go at the Mercedes car, but they're not quite going to have an opportunity. It's going to invite Possoon to the outside line in the second corner. Samaxon does have the inside line, should be an advantage, and they're slowly going to get squozen out. They do back off, as it's the wise option to do. It was a good effort right there for Samaxon. They tried to have an advantage. They tried to gain a little bit if they could. That's going to be Possoon going off the circuit. They did seem to lift, so I think they'll be able to get away with that one. But Heischler was ready, just in case there was a bit more of a problem, to be able to make a move. They stay there in P5 at the moment, as that hard tyre runner right behind them is going to be able to catch within DRS very shortly. That's going to be Tom Robb having an issue. No damage to their car, but they drop behind both Igor and the Bill very, very quickly. They might be able to stay within DRS if they're lucky, but it's going to be a tough one if those tyres are nice and hot. They might get DRS this time around, but other than that, it could be time for, well, not an early pit stop, but consider a slightly earlier pit stop than most. Zingy leads the way into the first corner. Nifo is going to sit behind. Will they get pressured once again from Samaxon? There is a bit of a pressurized moment right there, and a slight defensive throw, or just a breaking point spot right there from the Mercedes had to be taken, as that is going to be Charlie within DRS, and they are only going to get quicker. This is the switching point. Lap 6 is where you can really feel the difference on this medium tyre. Lap 7 is where they drop hard, and yeah, Charlie's going to be able to have a big amount of pace, not going to be so straightforward in making those moves, however, so the cars in front can afford to relax a little bit. Whether they will do so or not, I don't quite know, but the mistakes could come in, the time penalties could come in, and talking about time penalties, Nabil has just got the first time penalty of the evening. Eager Pro 1.9 seconds behind the gap ahead. That is Charlie, of course, as Nabil is trying to push Igor along, encourage them along as they go through 10-11 in the background. You can see them sliding on exit as they're pushing the car to the limit. Through the penultimate corner and into the final one, those tyres are definitely going to be screaming, especially through this final corner. That's where they really get to their burning point, and it's so tough to deal with. That is Nifo under threat from Samaxon on the exit. He goes defensive, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do much about it. Swooping around the outside is possible, but no, Nifo is going to be able to hold on as they release the brake and they stay ahead. That is a brilliant, brilliant job right there, and lucky for them, Samaxon doesn't fight any harder than they need to, so they will stay in DRS range of Zingy, but 6/10, 5/10, they could be in trouble if they fight any harder. So that was a crucial moment, and it was very well sorted out between the two drivers. Bassoon was ready to try and make a position on the 2. That is going to be a loss of traction right there on the exit of 5 for Nifo, and you can really tell that these tyres are going to be super tough to deal with, and in turn the track limits are definitely going to be vulnerable, so we'll have to watch out how that one goes. That is going to be a yellow, and that's going to be Igor, unfortunately, round, spinning the car through the S section. That was actually on the exit of the chicane in the end. I don't know if it would have been contact, but it would have been easy to spin regardless of if there was contact or not. So that is a tough one, but that's down to P10. They go behind JJ, still in the points at the moment, but they're going to have to look at maybe pitting a little bit earlier to try and get some sort of advantage and maybe make a bit of an undercut here around Hungary, which could work later on in the race. We'll have to see if that does come into fruition or not. Will we see Charlie go for the move on the inside of Heichler? We will not. Charlie probably very aware of the championship battle. They don't want to cause any incidents. They are the teammate of the championship leader. This is the championship rival that they've got just ahead of them, of course. They do have to make sure that they're careful. That's Tom Robb having more issues, unfortunately, as they go through turn 2. They're going to rejoin the race now in P11. Now, Charlie is trying to have a look, but with the DRS train, ahead of them is effectively just a wall of medium tyres, a wall of drivers that you can't really shake off. It's just very difficult to race against. If you've got a load of cars on the same tyre, even if they're on slower tyres, it's not so simple as just outbraking them. DRS trains, of course, become a thing, but it does mean that everybody bunches up, and when they all bunch up, you can't just send it on the brakes, because otherwise you'll crash into a car ahead. Now, will they be able to send it this time around? I don't quite know. We are now 1 lap into the pit window thing, and that's Samaxon activating the pit stops very early on. That is going to signal Charlie to make that move. They want to try and get ahead while they can, but they're just using the energy, forcing Heichler to push on the battery as well. They'll all send it into the corner, a little bit wide there for Nifojan as they come through, but they're still within DRS and they're good to go with Zingy. Samaxon now isn't going to be in traffic. They're going to be in clean air. They're going to get an undercut. What are the other cars going to do? Are they going to follow on, or are they going to wait that little bit longer? They would probably drop behind Samaxon, of course, but they will be good to go on that hard tyre, and they'll have an advantage later on. Nifo sliding on the exit, still staying with Zingy quite nicely, but they're definitely having a few problems here. Zingy ahead, just trying to manage the pace. They know that this is going to be an endurance race, and it is just going to be a management race, and by controlling the pace, they are going to be pretty happy, to be honest. They've got a few things to think about, though, as they go through the final sector. and through the final few corners. Will they make a pit stop to react to the Sauber here? It's a very early pit call, but no, they will not. It's going to be Nifo to the inside line, and they will dive to the pit lane to react to Samaxon, to try and cover them off, to try and get ahead. Other than that, they'll get a nice slingshot and an undercut based on everybody else. Now, we do get Pursoon getting DRS here on Nifo, despite them pitting. It does mean that they're able to stay with Zingy despite being a little bit further behind, of course, because of the car that has just left a gap between them, but that DRS basically made that gap go down to almost nothing. We're going to get JJ and the Bill switching positions as JJ is making a brilliant comeback after a difficult start to this Grand Prix. They're definitely finding their rhythm, and they've made it up to P5. Nabil can't really do anything about it. That is a brilliant effort right there from the McLaren driver. Nabil sat right behind them. We've got Igapro and P7, Jerko, Willis, PJ, and then we do get Samaxon, who is 1.5 seconds behind Nifojan. That is going to be a massive, massive call to the rest of the cars behind, and they're going to have to look at things. We're going to get Heischler and Charlie going side by side. There's contact between the two, and Charlie goes round. Despite being on the alternate strategy, it's going to go all down the drain after a little bit of a scuffle between these cars, and all of them will go into the pit lane immediately. Charlie will now have clean air, but they're not really going to care. That is such a shame to see between the two drivers right now, and Zingy into the pit lane. We're going to expect Samaxon to get ahead of this battle, but they've got traffic. Will Zingy be able to take advantage of this? That is going to be PJ just being overtaken. DRS available for Samaxon, and they will take that racing line. You can see Zingy right there in the background. Nifo will get ahead, not by a massive amount, however. DRS won't be available for Zingy. It is just going to be about pure pace, but after going for an outright outlap, that is now going to be Nifo with no battery in that car. So unless that temperature is going to be enough to try and extend the gap to the other cars, I don't think we're going to see anything happen. And somehow, miraculously, Heischler has been able to hold on to that DRS range for the time being, despite having an incident with Charlie. They are on the limit. They've got to find a little bit more pace. If they don't find this pace, it could be all over. It could be all over early on. It's way too early to say for sure, but it would definitely make it very difficult for Heischler in this race. Lap 11 out of 35. These laps do go by quickly, but they're hard. They are very hard, and that means that it's easy to make mistakes, and anyone can make mistakes, and anyone can change position later on into this race. That is P7 for Nifo. DRS available, but they're going to have to try and find their way through on Zingy. This will bring Heischler back into the battle, and Zingy is going to look to try and get ahead of both drivers as they've got the inside line. They've got the momentum. They back off. They want to take that position, but they lag back, it looks like, or lag forward, and Zingy will get ahead. Nifo will stay ahead of Pursoon just about, and what a shame right there for them. But what a strategy for Samaxon. They planned it just perfectly to be able to get through the traffic. Are they really going to have a look at turn 4? No, they will not. They've got JJ and Nabil to try and get through. Will they send it to the inside line? They will send it to the inside line. It's controversial, but I think it's worked. And they've managed to get to the inside into the chicane. Nabil's going to have to go over the curbs, and JJ can't do anything about it. And now, with the tyre advantage, 9 seconds away from Charlie, clean air, they are now going to run away, and this is a brilliant job. Nabil P3, JJ P4, Zingy currently right behind these guys. They're going to have to try and find their way through, and it's not going to be so easy. Samaxon gets another opportunity to break away. Zingy's going to find his way to the inside line just about. JJ tried to close it off, but it was too late. The Scotsman was already there. The inside line is available. JJ can't find it. Oh no! JJ loses more traction. Nifo's already making the move on the exit, it looks like. Here goes Pursoon to the inside line. It's 3 wide into turn 1. It is 3 wide into turn 1. That's not going to work. Nifo goes off. Heischler goes through. two. Absolutely incredible. And there's actually contact between the two teammates as JJ tries to hold on. He continues on the inside line. Heichler now has the inside line, and that's going to be Nifo trying to get through, but JJ will still be ahead. And that is a very, very, very difficult position for them to be in. Oh my, that is incredible. JJ stays ahead and they actually lose the car. Nifo's going to try and find their way to the inside line. JJ's going to be all over the curb. There's contact. These guys are going to lose positions. This is exactly what Heichler needs his teammate to do. It is very, very risky. And Nifo is going to be furious, but they will have an opportunity to catch back up. As I said earlier on, with this circuit being a very slow speed, it can be very possible to catch up when everybody's bunched up in the corner sections, as there's only some small DRS straights, of course, on the start-finish straight and on the exit of the first corner. DRS will be valuable and it will be a nice advantage, but will it be enough? Will Nifo be able to catch up? Heichler Zingy currently the fastest car on track at the moment, going purple, trying to catch back up to Samaxon. 2.2 seconds is the gap, 6.3 seconds. Samaxon has gained about 3 seconds in the last couple of laps on Charlie, who is on those old tyres, who has not pitted just yet. We've got a long way to go in this Grand Prix, but that was a hell of a switch up and a hell of a battle. JJ into the pit lane. They will be at the back of the pack, and they have done what they need to do to try and keep their teammate in this championship battle. It was tough. It was frustrating for the Mercedes, but they did it. And that is going to be how it goes for now. They can't do anything about it. They can't change back the clock. They've just got to get on with it, as Zingy is going to be leading this train, but Samaxon is the net race leader of the Grand Prix. Tom Robb retires, and that is going to bring out the safety car, but that will not be Charlie having the ability to go into the pit lane, and nobody will go into the pit lane after all. There is no point for Samaxon, Zingy, Pursoon, Heichler, Nifo, anyone basically to go into the pit lane except from Charlie, and they will not be able to overtake the safety car. Now, is this a good thing? They'll be closer. Charlie will be closer to the pack by pitting under the safety car and being right at the back. They'll have less work to do considering overall time gain and position gain, but they will have more work to do regarding making overtakes, as everyone will be closer together and it will be harder to deal with. Although this is frustrating for the Polish driver, it is actually something that could work out in their favour if they play it out right. I think they can't really afford to make this pit stop, however, still. So now, unfortunately for them, that gap that they had earlier on, around about 6 seconds, now is gone, and they are going to drop back. But at least they're still going to be somewhat close to the pack. It does mean that, of course, they do lose that advantage that they had. They still can't come into the pit lane immediately. I mean, they would be able to make it to the end of the Grand Prix, I want to say, on a medium set of tyres, but it wouldn't be easy, and I wouldn't recommend it. Charlie does go into the pit lane regardless, and I am wondering what if they selected for their tyre allocation. This could be crucial here. Samaxon will take the lead of the Grand Prix, but that will be Charlie onto that medium tyre. Now, my question is, will Charlie go back into the pit lane if the safety car does not go in on the next lap? And will Charlie go for a second set of hard tyres? They have gone for that pit stop for now. I just do wonder, could it be possible? Could it work out? Could they go onto a second set of hards? They would be on, I want to say fairly fresh, because it is Hungary. Their advantage would be quite nice. Someone who has had a bit of a disadvantage from all of this is Samaxon, who now has 2 lap older tyres compared to the cars directly behind him of Zingy, Pursoon and Heichler. that advantage of being or doing that undercut now, of course, does disappear. Charlie catches up to the back of the safety car. Jericho Willis will also. Charlie will not have the ability to go back in to the pit lane. But they do now find themselves serving that extra, or the 2 compound rule. So if another safety car does come into play, they will be good to go to whatever tyre they want, according, of course, to the tyre allocation that they have selected. Usually, drivers do select 2 sets of mediums, but there is an option to select 2 sets of hards. So has anybody done so around this circuit? I wouldn't be surprised. So Maxon will lead the safety car. The safety car exits the penultimate corner and comes into the final corner. Sir Maxon leads, and Zingy will react. Who is going to get it into the first corner? Will Zingy be able to react nicely as Sir Maxon straightens up the car but doesn't quite go for it just yet as they put the power down, and Zingy has reacted very, very nicely. They won't be able to make a move until they pass the start-finish line. There it is, and here comes turn 1. Zingy to the inside line. They take a look and they're going to put it on the brakes. Will they get there in time? They're on the apex and they're in the lead of the Grand Prix. A brilliant restart from the Scotsman. Pursoon sits right behind. That's going to be Nifo, the championship leader, out of the points down to P11, and it looks like they've got damage to their car. I don't know what that would have been. I don't know who that would have been involved in that collision, but what a shame. Down to P11 right there, and we're just going to double check. They do have left end plate damage. They've just got to try and stay away from time penalties, and maybe things can change later on, but that is a big, big, big gap now, points wise, position wise, and it could make everything go to the final race here in Silverstone next week. Zingy leads the way. Sir Maxon takes that P2 now as Pursoon is in P3 at the moment. They need to get themselves in a rhythm so they can bring that gap down a little bit more. 6 tenths is not much, but it's also not really a gap that you want. You want to be around 3-4 tenths behind ideally. Heischler 7-8 tenths behind Pursoon, so they need to try and find a bit more time. DRS will kick in and bring those gaps down regardless. Egapro P5, Nabil, then we've got PJ, then we've got Charlie, who is going to be aggressive on those tyres. To the outside line they have to go as PJ sends it to the inside line and makes the move on the Racing Bull. Charlie's going to try and get the kind of switchback and make moves on 2 cars in one corner. They'll try and swoop around the outside with the grippier tyres. They will do so as they power slide through turn 3, and they do make it to P6, and they will still hold on to that DRS gap to Egapro, who is just ahead and now back into this race from earlier on, losing the train, of course, on the opening laps. They get a second chance at this Grand Prix. We've seen Tom Robb retire from this race. We've seen big damage to the front wing of Nifo's car. Luckily, it's only an end plate, but it still is an end plate. They do hold on to DRS range, and that is more important, of course. 3-second time penalty to Egapro. That is not going to help them at all. 8 tenths behind Heischler at the moment. Heischler's not exactly too close to the back of Pursoon, so they do need to hope that DRS will bunch everybody up. Sir Maxon is going to be the first one to get that dosage of DRS, and they are going to close up nicely to Zingy, but regarding overtaking Zingy, that is a gap that's a little bit too far. Unless you're on the final lap of the Grand Prix, that gap is not going to be making a difference. And I say, not because you would send it on the brakes, although you might do so, I would say because you're going to be using a lot of energy if it was onto the final lap of the Grand Prix. That's going to be Charlie and Egapro switching positions, as Egapro has an issue, goes to 9 tenths behind. That's going to be JJ losing out as well, as they go behind the Haas car of PJ. So Charlie now has a bit of a gap to try and catch up to the cars ahead, trying to maximise their pace on this tyre, but will their tyres be able to make it to the end of the Grand Prix? It's going to be super tough, definitely for consistency later on, and they are going to try and get that DRS range, but Egapro, it's going to be not so easy to do so, but they do still have a front wing and they're good to go, but they do go over track limits as they're really struggling on the exit as they enter into the S section, which is an interesting place to really have these issues on the safety car restart as these tyres continue to get warmed up, but they're not really in a troublesome situation. So Maxon, in the meantime, isn't able to hold on to DRS range of Zingy as they break away and they take the opportunity on the safety car restart to see everybody else out of rhythm. But Zingy, so adaptable, he is the 6-time world champion, he has the ability to do so. That's going to be Pursoon taking the lead of the train here in Hungary. Will they have an answer to Zingy's pace at this stage? Heischler is now brought back into this pace, or into this race, as they're not in the DRS of Zingy anymore, and they are all bunching up behind a little bit more. Pursoon has definitely found a little bit more pace here and is bringing that gap back down. Brilliant effort from them right there. Will Charlie be looking to make some moves here? I don't quite know. We'll see how it goes. If we look at Zingy's car, they did use a lot of battery to try and get that move done. Pursoon trying to push a little bit more to get that back. 9/10 is not easy. It's crunch time. They have to get this done. Otherwise, they're going to have a lot of pressure behind them. That being said, a 6/10 advantage would be enough to be nice and comfortable here. Zingy leads. Pursoon does get that DRS range, and they get the fastest lap just to boot as well. So Maxon sits right behind. I say right behind. That is still a 9/10 gap. They almost lost the DRS range themselves. And as they go through the first corner, they do lose it, and they lose traction. They lose front wing, and they lose positions down to P5. And that is an incredibly strange loss of traction that I've seen. Yeah, that's going to be catastrophic, and they're going to inevitably be caught, I would assume, by Nabil and Igapro right behind. That being said, Nifo, who not necessarily being able to make overtakes, has stayed with this pack with that damage on the car. So it will be possible, it will still be possible for Samaxon to stay in this race, and they haven't lost positions, so at least there is that. And that actually sees Heischler, because of that gap all of a sudden appearing, as there is no more Sauber in between them and Pursoon ahead, not in DRS range anymore. That does allow the top two to break away, and they're going to be fighting for the victory themselves. Nabil leaves the session and has connection issues once again here on LSI. It is very, very frustrating, of course, for them. Hopefully they can get back into this lobby. Charlie is now having an opportunity, possibly in a few laps' time, to be able to overtake. That is now Nifo into the points, scoring a crucial one. P10 will be useful. Nabil will probably drop out of DRS because of this connection issue, which is a hell of a shame, but it's the way it goes sometimes. It is the way it goes. Oh, and Heischler loses the car into turn 5. They go off, and they're going to lose a lot of positions. They've got to join safely. They've got to join slowly. And as you can see, Nifojan gets ahead of his rival. That was absolutely incredible. The tyres are crazy. They are cooked. They are too hot. And through turn 5, it's just not worked out unless they touch the grass on the entry. And that would explain everything. A snap like that would be explained massively by a touch on the grass. And now Nifo is currently in a position to take the win for season 13 as another loss of traction for Heischler. Once you lose traction once, it's just going to make the tyres so hot. And they're in a train. It makes them hot anyway. There's battling up ahead. We've got JJ to the inside line of Samaxon, and PJ sends it on the brakes. That is a phenomenal move, but they're not quite going to get there as the Englishman does get through. And they make it P5. Samaxon trying to hold on, locking the rears as the Haas driver to the inside line is the Mercedes as they go side by side with Joko Willis. Willis. They'll go up the hill. Someone's going to have to back out, or they're really going to go side by side through the corners. It's going to be Heichler in the end. There's PJ down the order, side by side between the two rivals. All of a sudden, how has this happened? I do not believe it. It's Niffo. I don't know what I've just seen, but Heichler has gone off the circuit. They're going to have to return those two positions fully. They have to return those two positions fully. I don't know what happened, but Sir Maxon slowed down significantly as they were trying to go side by side with Heichler and Niffo. Niffo lags a little bit. It allows Heichler to get to the inside. There's contact as they push to the absolute limit. Now, Niffo on the inside line with that damage. Do they have the advantage over the overheating tyres? Heichler once again sends it to the inside line to try and get there, and they do get the exit with the damage, with the understeer. Niffo can't compete, and now a clear run with DRS. They're going to have a massive advantage. Jericho Willis is going to send it on both cars. They make contact with the rear of Sir Maxon. Oh, I do not believe it. Sir Maxon stays ahead, but Jericho Willis does get ahead, and everything is changing in this Grand Prix. On lap 24 out of 35, all of a sudden, there's a massive gap between everybody ahead, but these guys continue to battle. Two cars with damage. That is Niffo and Sir Maxon, and it is making everything incredibly interesting. That's Niffo going out of track limits. They had to slow down for that one, otherwise they would have got themselves a possible time penalty. It does bring PJ back into this battle after their issues. They've still got a front wing and they've still got pace in that car, but they've got to keep it calm on that medium tyre that is only going to get worse in this Grand Prix. Absolutely crazy. Jericho Willis allows Heichler to go through, who was pushing on the battery. Sir Maxon is going to still be ahead, and I don't quite know what happened, but everything got very, very crazy in the chicane just a couple of laps ago, and it kicked off one of the closest battles we've had in a while. Heichler is going to be looking to try and make this move, and they're going to look at making it P6 for now, but Sir Maxon is still not going to make it easy as they continue to fight, as they will get ahead. We've also got PJ and Niffo coming through turn one. As Niffo loses the car, PJ loses it more, and it's going to be in the wall, and that is eventually damage. That is no DRS right there for Niffo. Jericho Willis and Sir Maxon continue to fight side by side. They're going to have to back off if they want to stay within DRS range here of Heichler, but I think it's a little bit too late to say sorry. That is going to be Heichler away from DRS range. It's going to be a time penalty to Nifojan. It's going to be Heichler into P6 with no DRS to anyone ahead or behind, and no time penalties to their name. Lap 25 out of 35. We've got 10.5 laps remaining of this Grand Prix. Anything can still happen, but after all of this has happened in the background, these two have broken away, and they are trading positions to work together to extend that gap further. And the next car behind them is a medium tyre who is only going to lose more. Zingy goes ahead, and they don't need to worry about anyone behind so far. They just need to make sure that they don't get any time penalties, and they'll be good to go in case of a safety car later on. Charlie is going to continue to lose out. That's going to be Igor hoping to get an advantage later on if they can do so. As we look at the time penalty situation, it's 3 seconds for Charlie, Igor, JJ, Jericho Willis, Sir Maxon and the Bill. We get PJ into the pit lane, and I didn't realise, but Nifojan has had a time penalty, and that must have been for speeding in the pit lane, a 10-second. So they're currently on 13 seconds of time penalties. Their race has been pretty horrible so far. If that is a speeding penalty, it could be legit. It's about probably like an 80% chance, 90% chance that that is a legitimate penalty, unless you have been pushed on into the pit lane entry, of course. Regarding what happened at the safety car restart, maybe there was a 10-second time penalty unfairly applied in that situation. Maybe there was a 10-second time penalty unfairly applied as Heichler had to return the position, and maybe there was a bug and they just had to try and take that position and hope that it worked out later on. But right now it's not looking like it's working out so well, and that is super, super tough. At this stage of the race, Nifo's got to be hopeful and grateful that Zingy and Pursoon are currently ahead right here and taking away the chance for Heischler to be able to win this Grand Prix, and that will of course make the difference quite possibly in the championship here. That is going to be Sir Maxon and Jericho Willis continuing to fight. They go through turn 3 and it's going to be Jericho Willis this time dropping behind up the hill. They will not go side by side as they have done many times so far. Nifo needs to try and find a bit of a rhythm, but I believe losing more wing at some point, whether that be the side-by-side racing or not, it does make it even harder, and this does show that a little bit more damage does mean that you're not going to have such an easy chance at staying with the cars ahead. What a difficult scenario for them to be in. A very, very tough one. Now, the situation that we've got a little bit further ahead, but not quite at the front, is Charlie on a old set of medium tyres as Heischler Egapro continues to catch up. But then we'll get JJ, who is not too far behind. They currently have their teammate directly behind them. With that time penalty, they don't actually need to give the position up. They can just stay ahead, and Heischler will maybe be able to get that position eventually, but JJ has fresher tyres by quite a decent margin. Would they be able to extend later on, or will they give their teammate that position? I think they definitely have to try and give their teammate that position for the championship purposes, but we'll see if that comes into effect later on in the Grand Prix, of course, and that would mean that Heischler would score 10 points and the gap going into the final Grand Prix would be 11 points. And that would mean that Heischler would have to finish P4 in the Grand Prix at Silverstone in order to win, as they would have to score 12 points. They can't afford to score 11 points over Nifo because that is not enough. There are more wins to the Dutchman's name in the Mercedes car compared to the Dutchman in the McLaren car. So they do have to make sure that they score those 12 points, or they finish well, I was going to say finish in P5 with fastest lap, but no, that wouldn't matter. They have to finish 4th or higher in order to win the championship. Now, that being said, it is all considering the fact that we assume JJ will return the position here to Heischler. Will that be the case? I don't quite know. Zingy and Pursoon continue to lead this Grand Prix, lap 29 out of 35. Everything starts to close up. Everything starts to close up big time. That is going to be Zingy losing the car through turn 5 as well, as Heischler did a few laps ago. This time it is Zingy. It looked like a little bit of a different spin. However, the exit through 4, the momentum they carry on the rear end was just very, very difficult. Now they've got 6/10, 7/10 to try and catch to the Alpine car. If they can catch that, that'll be brilliant, and we'll get a fight to the final few laps. But is that going to be so possible? Is that going to be so easy? I don't know. They're going to have to push. They're going to have to use their resources that they would have been hoping to save until the final laps of this Grand Prix. But now Pursoon has got an opportunity to lead this Grand Prix and possibly win this Grand Prix. They also have an opportunity to simply relax if they choose to do so instead. That is Egapro already ahead of Charlie. Charlie and DRS just trying to get an advantage to stay ahead of JJ if they can do so. But will that be the case? I don't quite know. Heischler in the meantime is going to be catching. If Egapro and Charlie aren't able to pick up the pace, those time penalties will definitely come into effect. Heischler's making good progress on their teammate, but at this rate, if they were only making good progress on the teammate, it wouldn't be enough for them to be able to get ahead of Charlie and Egapro. That is the case. So it's going to be a tough one. 4.8 seconds. They are catching at the moment. The pace is there, but their tyres are older, and they are going to be slower to the end of this Grand Prix. Over the course of the last lap here in Budapest, this man, Zingy, has not been able to bring it back to DRS range. They've got more opportunities, they've got more laps, but the less laps you have, the less chance you have at saving more resources. And they've used all of their battery now in this Grand Prix so far, and they are not able to gain so much. Pursoon has a phenomenal chance at winning this Grand Prix. The Hungarian Grand Prix could be theirs. We saw them earlier on in this game. The launch season, or was it the summer season? Racing in Hungary in the summer season. And they didn't have practice, they didn't have pace, they didn't have the performance, and they didn't get the best result in that Grand Prix. But you go a few months later down the line, and they've changed everything here. And Zingy doesn't seem to have an answer. Determined to win this Grand Prix. Everything slips away, however, now. We've got PJ ahead of Nabil with the DRS before they got further on, as Nabil, of course, has not been able to get back into this race. Such a shame there for Nabil, continuing to disconnect, having more issues. We saw them in the practice lobbies and they seem to have no problems at all. But this time around, not quite so simple, and I do apologise to them massively. 7/10, that gap is stable right there for Pursoon. Pursoon is doing everything that they need to. Also, Igapro doing everything that they need to. They're trying to extend here as Charlie is being pressured by JJ. JJ's to the inside line. Slipstream available for Charlie for a moment, but they just go off a slightly different line in the end, and they will stay where they are. JJ is making that progress to try and give themselves the best chance of this race. Getting a good result would be very nice indeed. 2 seconds away from Igor, however, so would anything change regarding that situation? I don't quite know, as that is actually side-by-side battling, it looks like, with Samaxon and Joko Willis as they continue P7 and P8 at the moment, but 10 seconds back is Nifojan, who is looking to only score 2 points this time around here in Budapest, and PJ actually will be able to possibly take that 1 point away as well. Samaxon is now ahead as Joko Willis is 7/10 behind as they switch once again positions on the track. Charlie not too far away, but as these guys battled, it does mean that this man is able to get within time penalty range. 2.7 seconds. Doesn't look like 2.7 seconds, it looks like more like 4 seconds really. That is a very interesting delta. I'm going to turn the overlay off and just see if it's correct, and it is correct. So yeah, definitely looks a lot bigger of a gap, but it's not. It's not that big of a gap. So currently looking to be within time penalty range of Charlie, and instead of looking to try and get a position over their teammate, they're looking to get a position over the Mercedes car instead, and that would be a brilliant advantage for them, of course, going into the final round in Silverstone, the Great British Grand Prix. Up with the top two for the race victory. Pursoon still has the advantage. DRS is not available. Zingy will have been saving a little bit just a few laps ago, and they're probably going for another quick lap to try and put the pressure on. But they are running out of opportunity to do it. It's not going to be so straightforward. And when we go across the line here with Pursoon, we can confirm we will not be getting a safety car in this Grand Prix anymore. No one will be able to be brought back into this race due to yellow flags. It will stay as it is. Heischler is looking to try and make a move here on Charlie, possibly even on this lap. Charlie saving the battery out the final corner, trying to have an ability to use a bit more as they go into turn one. Slightly defensive, but not really anything they can do about it. Sliding as they enter turn one. Heischler makes that move look very, very easy. 4 seconds away from their teammate. They need another second if they want to try and make this work, but JJ is determined to push here for Igapro, because that could be a podium position for them if they get the job done. P7 and P8 once again switching around. That's Jericho Willis now ahead. Would they have the advantage? Well, I say being ahead on lap 34, DRS will be available to Sir Maxon as they start lap 35. Sir Maxon's going to have an advantage in that regard, but of course, damage-wise, it would be possibly quite sweet for Jericho Willis, and they might have an opportunity to get back again. Now it is crucial here. 8 tenths Heischler has to his teammate. They need to find a bit more pace in this car. But we do start the final lap with Pursoon, your race leader, 0.4 of a second. They start to back off as Zingy is bringing it back in. They know that it's going to be virtually impossible for Zingy to be able to make a move here after the DRS straight, so they can afford to let things go a little bit more. That being said, they've immediately brought that back up once again and almost to a 0.8 gap instead away from DRS range. Egapro sits in P3, JJ sits right there. There's 4 tenths between the two teammates. Heischler needs a little bit more, and not only will they get that P5 spot, but they'll get that P4 spot quite possibly. They need a little bit more time. It's Jericho Willis and Sir Maxon side by side again, but this time Jericho Willis is going to be ahead, and up through turn 4 they're still going to have the advantage. That's going to be the Williams surely getting through and all over the circuit with the tyres. That is Sir Maxon not able to find a way through, but this man has driven absolutely phenomenally. Pursoon wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. Zingy gave it all he could. P2 is where he ends up once again. That's going to be P3 and a podium for the Aston Martin. Egapro, welcome back. JJ is going to finish P4. Did they slow down for their teammate at the end? 0.2, 0.2, 0.1. They did not do it. It's going to be P5 for Heischler in the end. Charlie P6. Then we're going to get Jericho Willis. Will there be one more opportunity here for Sir Maxon on the inside line? Maybe on the exit. Not with the damage. Jericho Willis finishes P7. P8 for Sir Maxon in the end. And it's going to be Nifojan who will be passed on the final few corners. Will PJ be able to get there in the end, or is it going to be just that too difficult? PJ to the outside line, and they swoop through and snatch that P9 on track. P10 goes to the championship leader, who will score 1 point after all of that. And the high ground is not so high after all. Going into Belgium, it was looking good. But now, Heischler has brought it back, and it's going to go down to the final race in Silverstone. Pursoon, however, gets ahead, and they take maximum points with the fastest lap as well. Zingy P2, then we got Egapro, JJ, Heischler, Charlie, Jericho Willis, Sir Maxwell, Nifojan, PJ in P10. Then we've got Nabil disconnecting, and DNFing earlier on was Tom Robb in P12. This is the race director, just in case we do need it. Hungary is a very penalty-prone circuit, so a few people will probably want to prove that they can try and get a few time penalties removed here and there. That's been that. Thank you very much. We'll be back in a bit for the post-race interviews. If you're watching on the full race replay, we'll see you in Silverstone. Bye-bye. Hello everyone, welcome to the post-race interviews of the Hungarian Grand Prix. That was a very, very crazy one. Tom, not the race you wanted. Unfortunately, early ends to your Grand Prix. Can you take us through it?
Yeah, today it got like two major problems. First one, I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm completely sick for the entire week. So that was fun, especially with creating my setup. So I felt my old was a bit strange on the rear since the inverted wings are meta. So I tried to create a new one. With my current state, it was really hard for me. But I felt like I had a good setup in testing. But today, like I needed 3 laps till my tires had somewhat of grip in terms of temperature. And then I just had like 1 lap, which I could drive normally. And then like lap 5 on one set, it was so much overheating my tire temps. I don't know why. That I just had so much oversteer through every turn. So at some point, like I think lap 12, 13, I was thinking if I should retire in the pit lane because I felt like I'm going into the wall at some point. Yeah, then I tried to maybe stick through and hope it's gonna get better. But yeah, in the end, it just happened what I expected.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Everyone knew the tyres were going to be difficult, and you got the brunt of it, unfortunately. Hoping that you're going to be better for next race, of course, feeling better, and I hope you get well soon. Silverstone, it's a bit different on tyres. It should be nicer. Do you like that circuit?
Yeah, Silverstone is a good circuit for me, I think. Showed some good races, even with few practice. But my main goal is just to get feel better really soon. And then hope I can get a new kind of setup for Silverstone, which I can take through the race. And if everything's gonna be alright, maybe have a chance again. Like I think, what was it? Launching season or summer season? But not especially if I'm staying a bit sick. It's just gonna be me driving circles and hoping I finish.
Yep, it's a difficult one, and again, I hope you get better soon. I'll let you go and rest. Thank you very much for your efforts to race despite being sick. So yeah, good effort today. It's a shame it didn't go the way you wanted it to, but we'll see you next time. And we move on to that is Nifo. Nifo, that was a tough race. 1 point on the board in the end. It does mean that it goes down to the final race with the advantage, of course, brought down a little bit more than you'd probably have liked. Can you take us through it, and how did the safety car affect you?
I mean, I did nothing wrong. I raced a perfect 14 laps, and you know, I don't like using team games, but so nothing was going on there. And then yeah, I mean, first the one McLaren decides to defend as dirty as possible, which yeah, I mean, must have been the instruction, because I don't know what I've seen there. I mean, man's braking in the corners, turning in too early, like he braking on the straight even at this point. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but you know, if you want to hold up a rival like that, you know, feel free if you're happy about that. And then yeah, I mean, I go for the cleanest move around the outside I've ever done. Give him the most space possible. I'm like 1 pixel on the white line with my right wheel, and he still touches me and puts me in the wall, you know? So, yeah, what can you do? I mean, every time in the season, I've given him loads of space, and every time we crash, so... I'm not the one who causes it. He's the one, and it's happened multiple times now, so... I mean, what can I do? I can give him like a part of the season. He will still touch me. He will still put me in the wall. So if he wants to win a championship that way, I hope he's happy. I hope he lays it bad night and thinks, okay, great. I put it to the final race because I put him in the wall, and I move on. And yeah, the rest of the race, yeah, you just have people who are slower thinking they're battling for the championship, locking the rears, and they give me damage once, damage twice, damage 3 times, and yeah, then it's just staying out hoping for a safety car never comes, because hey, why would I have luck? I have to drive half the season with one hand, half the season with lag backs of incredible magnitude, so yeah, I mean, what can you do? I mean, I did nothing wrong again, but I just get unfairly put in this position, and no penalty of the contact will make it right because he's so far ahead, because obviously he put me in the wall and then just drives off and then makes a mistake himself and then gets lucky, you know? So what can you do? I find it unbelievable the things I've seen today, and especially the driving from the 2 McLarens, and also just the driving from the people behind, just locking the rears and just spinning all over the place.
I'm sorry to hear that, and yeah, it was good to see you up there for a while, but unfortunately, with everything being bunched up, it didn't make it easy. We move on to Silverstone. Is that a circuit that you like? Do you like it more than Hungary?
I like it more than Hungary, but at this point, you know, I hope they understand that they shouldn't go side by side with me in Silverstone, because they'll see what happens.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Nifo, and we'll see you next time, and hopefully it goes better then. And we move on to Heischler. Heischler, that was a very, very tough race. You do outscore your rival in the end, and you do bring it down a lot more. What do you think you can do, of course, in the next race, but can you also take us through your race today?
First off, I'm actually sad that my rival thinks this way, because nothing that happens in this race was either on purpose or on instruction. Just my teammate helping me out on his own will. So that's wrong what Nifo just stated. The moment on the safety car as well, I've looked back at it. I was indeed defending aggressively. And from what I saw, Nifo wanted to go obviously back on the track from the curb, and I was moving to the right as well, but he moved more to the right than I was, and that caused him to lose traction and move indeed towards the wall. And again, I don't want to win a championship like that, and in my opinion I did nothing completely wrong, but yes, still sad to hear that Nifo thinks this way. Apart from that, I actually had a good race. I had fun. I had fun. I made a big mistake in turn 5, touching the grass on the outside there, which is quite easy to do there in that corner particularly. And yeah, then I was behind Nifo again, and it was just messy with Simaxon and Jericho. I didn't really review that yet, but that was just a lot of chaos. Luckily, I indeed, as Nifo said, had some luck and got through that pack and could try to catch up to the people that had penalties ahead. But in doing so, I had on the last lap my last warning. I was on 2 warnings from lap 8 onwards. Yeah, so I had on the last lap a warning, and that sadly meant that my teammate couldn't give me that position. He wanted to do it, but I myself made a mistake. So yeah, it's P5 in the end. I don't know how much the gap got down by, but still Nifo is in a really strong position to win this championship, and I think still either of us would deserve it.
And into the final race, Silverstone, the gap is 12 points. How do you think it's going to go?
I mean, I had Silverstone yesterday in PSGL, and the setup I had was just perfect. The racing I did was perfect. I made, in my opinion, really nice overtakes, and everyone who I battled with said afterwards that it was a really nice battle. So I feel confident for that race. I feel like I can do really well there and indeed beat Nifo again, but it's just a question where Nifo would finish. If he finishes still in the top 6, I believe he would win the championship. So something needs to happen to Nifo for me to win the championship, and I hope none of the McLarens is involved in that.
Fair enough. Well said. thank you very much, Heisler, and we'll see you next time. Good luck, and may the best man win. Thank you very much, Heisler.
Thank you.
And we move on to Jerko Willis. Jerko, that was a pretty exhausting race, I'm going to have to be honest. You had quite a few battles, and you were with Samaxon, your F1.5 rival, towards the end. Can you take us through your race?
Yeah, sure. It was quite a fun race. It was an interesting one for me today because I've been traveling all week, so I haven't touched anything since Monday. And I sat down 20 minutes before we were going to race and said, well, I better use this as a practice session for tomorrow. And didn't really know what setup I was going to use. Made a couple of changes to add a little bit extra downforce, and went for it. Tried to get up to speed in qualifying. Was well off the pace, but was able to put together a half decent lap in the end and just be 1 second off the pace in the end of qualifying. So that was encouraging to see the things coming together a little bit quickly. But then starting into the race, it was just kind of rusty and struggling to get into a rhythm. But eventually started to get into a little bit of a rhythm, and was pretty good on my tires today, and that was encouraging. That's something that typically is a strength of mine. My pace is usually nowhere near someone like, Samaxon or Frantic or any of the top guys in this F1 tier. But conserving my tires is something that I am actually fairly good at. And that was kind of fun to have that pay off today. But that, of course, was aided by making the decision to go on a new set of mediums during the safety car. And right away, it was tempting to really push on those new mediums. But I knew that it was still like 20 laps to go on a set of mediums. And I know that's pushing it, even on light fuel. So I really just underdrove the car for the next 10 laps. And then everything started to come in near the end of the race with the extra rubber. And it was a lot of fun fighting with people that I know are quicker than me. But, you get a little bit of a tire offset and you can make some things happen. So I pushed it a little bit, tried to be fair, but in the end it was Samaxon and I, both reserve drivers, having a little bit of fun. At one point, Geisler got in there, and I didn't realize that it was him, and I didn't know how he even got back there. But once I realized it was him, I tried to be a little bit more careful because I didn't want to mess with his race being, a championship contender. So tried to get him out of the way, and then we went back to it again to the end of the race. And I'm interested to go back and watch it. I'm sure it'll be fun to go back and watch. And hopefully I didn't step on Samaxon's toes too much there in the last lap, trying to be a little bit defensive with not going over the limit. So hopefully I achieved that, but I'll take a look just to make sure. And looking forward to tomorrow. And it'll be an interesting one. In that I think it's very hard to lay off your maximum pace when sim racing. Everybody wants to go full out all the time, especially when you have such good pace as some of these guys do. So it'll be interesting tomorrow to see how to manage the pace and manage the tires. That's not a discipline that any of us are too familiar with. So it was interesting. It was a lot of fun.
Yep, you've answered my question about tomorrow. Silverstone, do you think you can do well there? Is it a track that suits you?
I like Silverstone. I'm going to be traveling all again this week, so it may come down to the same kind of thing. We'll see how quickly I can get up to speed next week. But to get up to speed and get some points as a reserve today was encouraging. So maybe it'll be okay. I do like the track, so hopefully we can put something together for next week.
Awesome. Thanks for the racing today, and we will see you tomorrow. Of course, good luck there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we move on to Samaxon. Samaxon, that was tough. Obviously, had some pretty close fighting at the end. Not the situation you wanted to be in. What happened on the exit of turn 1?
I just spun.
Yeah, it was tyres hot, maybe, or was it like racing the cars closely, just a little bit of a distraction, possibly?
No, only damaged talent.
I see. Starting quite far up the order, of course, and you're fighting for the top positions. pretty much for the most part until that incident. Can you take us through your race?
It was a good start of a race. I had the pace to stay with the top two, and then decided to undercut. It worked somehow. I managed to gain some time on Zing. It was around 2.5 seconds, I think, and then the safety car came out. And after the safety car, I don't know what happened, but I had no pace. And then just trying to gain too much span in exit of turn 1. Had yellow wing, just was hoping for another safety car, but it didn't happen. So for the last, I think, 10 laps, I was just fighting with Jericho. Yeah, I just expected to win. If I don't win, it will be the biggest disappointment of my life.
Fair enough, fair enough. There's a lot of pressure. Just to quickly clarify, it was accidentally muted on the stream. I just asked how do they think their chances are going to go for tomorrow for a possible victory. So Maxon, Silverstone, it's a very different circuit. Still fairly high downforce, but it is very high speed. Do you think you can do well there?
At this point, at this point, I don't expect anything.
Fair enough, fair enough. Well, it was tough today, but you got to the end and you had some good racing. Thank you very much to Maxon, and we'll see you next time. Well done. And we move on to Zingy. It's unfortunately another P2, but it was a very, very good effort. A very nice pole position, by the way. But yeah, can you take us through your race, and also as your rival for the victory today isn't joining for an interview, can you just maybe give a few words as well for them?
Yeah, qualifying pace was looking phenomenal. I went in time trial for a few laps beforehand to see where the pace lay. It was about 13.4 to 13.1, which seemed to be roughly where the pole lap was, and that's what I got. The first part of the race was just conserving those mediums. I said it before the race, everyone was sliding everyone was sliding on very much so, let's just say that. And I was managing to keep my car for the most part under control due to managing those temps. Obviously the safety car came out on the hards. And then yeah, me and Pursuing were just on that second stint anyway, unless I know Niffle had damage. I'm not sure what happened to Haj, but he seemed to be very quick compared to everyone else, so I think if I didn't make that mistake, I should have won. I could have won. Do we know if I would have won? No, but I think I had every chance of doing so. But so did Person, because he's just about as fast as me. So it's a bit of a pain. Turn 4 was good. I was close behind Person. Nothing to do with dirty air, nothing to do with the car ahead. It was just my own mistake. I don't make them much, I'll be honest, but when I do, it gets very frustrating. So unfortunately I made that mistake. Person didn't, and that's why he won.
That is true, and unfortunately it will be another P2, a little bit closer to P1 this time around, but still a very, very good effort, and thank you very much for a very entertaining race, and well done today on the efforts, of course. Whether you're there for Silverstone or not, is that a circuit that you like more than Hungary? Do you think if you were to race you'd have a better chance of winning around there?
I think Silverstone's a very different track to Hungary in the sense that you need to be in the right position on the last lap, and that position's either P2 or P3. Unless you are really good in the middle sector, which, it's not really a sector you can pull away in. So I think it's just going to be a massive DRS train. It's going to be very difficult, of course, to just break away. I think if someone does break away, like Pursuit done today, then they'll be sorted for the win. But Silverstone, I'd say, is a harder track to make mistakes on. It's just so much wider, so much easier to just drive around. So I think it's going to be very close, and obviously the championship being at 12 points is going to be very tough for Heiss to get that. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to get the win here, so that's all I can ask for. But unfortunately, yeah, I made that mistake.
Yep, it's a tough one to take, but definitely you have the ability to have one more chance at it at that P1. Well done today. Very, very good effort. Thank you very much for the racing, and we'll see you next time. Well done. And that's been it. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you tomorrow for the F1.5 EU Championship, the Hungarian Grand Prix. That'll be a good one. We'll see you tomorrow also for the watch-alongs for the FP3 and the qualifying session for the final Abu Dhabi Grand Prix of the 2024 season. I say that, it should be the final Grand Prix of the 2024 season, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.